All right, y'all. Welcome back to the War Sheep Podcast, where we expose the wolves in sheep's clothing and give you the raw truth, backed with scripture, historical proof and evidence, and also receipts. Right today, we're stepping into a story of a man who called himself a prophet, who called himself the end times prophet, the last prophet, but whose fruit told a much different story, y'all. I'm talking about Ralph Gordon Stair, better known as Brother RG Stair. Now, it's important when we're taking a look at Straightway Truth Ministries, we take a look at the history behind it. What truly took place? What was the influence on Dowell? What was the influence on this individual, right? And can we compare and contrast other cult leaders that have been proven to be cult leaders? You understand what I'm saying? To the influence that is over Straightway Truth Ministries. We're going to shed light on that and more right here, right now on a War Sheep Podcast, where we believe that light creates understanding, understanding creates love, love creates patience, and that patience will create unity. So let's get unified in the spirit, y'all.
Is the sheep preaching hate when he says, I'm not going to let the wolf eat me anymore? If the wolf comes in here, next time he comes in here, I'll do whatever I have to do to keep him off my back. Is the sheep violent or is the wolf violent? He wasn't teaching hate, he was teaching common sense. You know, somebody's knocking you over the head, stop him. Do whatever you have to do to stop him. You know, the ones that were knocking him over the head were afraid of the fact that he might swing back. So they said, no, he's teaching hate, he's violent.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive deep into this series, y'all. My thing is this, right? Ralph Gordon Stair, better known as Brother RG Stair, was a man who was over the shortwave radio and making a huge impact on lives. You understand what I'm saying? A doomsday pastor who preached it and spoke it how he spoke it, right? Shot it straight down the middle. Some things that we can be able to parallel with Straightway Truth Ministries. Now, my thing is this, right? Dowell had rhetoric in regards to doing certain things that he encouraged and influenced young men to do. And he spoke it from a very, I guess, a position of he has done it himself. You understand what I'm saying? I want to unpack this a little bit more because if I'm not mistaken, the origins of Straightway is much more sinister, much more dark than you may have thought before. There's certain things and certain nuances. From what I'm understanding, the Straightway Truth Ministries origins is much darker and much sinister than you may have thought. We need to figure out and unpack the level of manipulation and coercion that comes from somebody who used to be Dowell's mentor, someone he spent a lot of time with and analyzing the behaviors and cross-referencing them from somebody who is now a known a cult leader, a known pedophile. You understand what I'm telling you? We're going to do that right here, right now. But first, I want you to hear what he had to say in regards to starting a community. Then we're going to come back and dive into this a little deeper.
For those of you who are new and haven't heard me, this is what I've been saying for decades, well over 20 years on this channel. I said, listen, if you're young, in your 20s and early 30s, go out there and work yourself 2 or 3 jobs. Live like no other American does, which is on bare minimum food, get a very, very simple lodging where you don't have to pay much in rent, stack Federal Reserve notes, do that for about 5 or 6 years. When you got a nice little nest egg to start, go out and buy you anywhere between 1 and 5 acres of land, preferably 5 acres. Learn building skills so that you don't have to pay the experts out there to build your home. You can do it yourself. I know you can. Look, I'm an old paratrooper. If I can do it, you can do it. All I learned, as soon as I got out of high school, I took a year off to just work. Then I went into the military. Man, Then after that, I spent about 10 years in the military. I got out, and everything that I'm telling you, I've done it myself. And guess where I got it all from? I got these instructions. Everything that I'm telling you about and I live by, I got them all from here. Yep, that's right, the Holy Bible. Yep, that's right, the Holy Bible. Every single bit of it. Everything that I'm telling you about and I live by, I got them all from here. Yep, that's right, the Holy Bible. Every single bit of it.
Now, as I already have covered in previous live streams, RG Stair. Stair. Some of y'all are probably like, who is RG Stair?
Wait a minute. Who are you?
RG Stair. RG Stair is Dowell's mentor. He was in quite a bit of a mentorship with RG Stair back in the early 1990s. You understand? When RG Stair was running the ministry called Overcomers Ministry. Now, RG Stair also had a compound or a piece of land where people dwelled on it, right, in common unity. I want to do the exact parallels, right? But first, we got to unpack the origins of where Dowell gets not only his teaching style, his preaching style, but also the way that he runs his community. I'm going to unpack this for you guys in its totality throughout at least a 3-part series here. You understand what I'm saying? First, we're going to start with the origins of Stair. Now, I have someone who's coming in with me who is like an expert in regards to Stair, because not only did they deal directly with the community, but they also have an understanding and breaking down of that individual, right? So I got a few clips that I want you guys to take a look at, and I'm going to show you the parallels between the two. Now, he claims that, of course, the land has been started by himself, and he's got all the knowledge he needs to have through the scriptures, through the Bible, which I would bet they differ. I would raise a red flag. I would disagree with that position totally and completely, because of the simple fact that RG Stair was somebody who had a heavy influence on Dowell. Let's go ahead and take a look at the very first clip that I have here in the origins of RG Stair. Let's get it.
But yeah. So, Patty, for this episode, I actually did put together a bit of a timeline. I wanted people to get a sense of like who Brother Stair was as a whole. And yes, I'm just going to refer to him as Brother Stair. I know he gave himself that title, but that's how we always remembered him as. He had a commune in Walterboro, South Carolina. He was born in Pennsylvania in 1933. Now, this would have been around the same year that Herbert W. Armstrong started his ministry in Oregon. It was either 33, 34, somewhere in that time frame. And Armstrong began his ministry as Radio Church of God, because Armstrong was also an early pioneer of radio. Now, Brother Stair, I don't ever recall him coming out saying that he knew who Armstrong was, but I think there's a good chance that he would have listened to him on the radio as a child. I don't know much about Brother Stair's background as far as his parents. I knew he was raised in, mainstream Christianity, and then he went on to become a pastor in the Methodist Church.
I always found it odd that it didn't seem like Stair tried to say anything about having known about Herbert W. Armstrong. It's almost like he tried to just take his ideas and pass them off as his own and not let anyone know where he got it from. I don't think he ever mentioned it. I really don't. But you're absolutely right. Like, if he's born in the same year that Armstrong had started the radio church, we know it was only a few years until that radio program was running coast to coast. And it was a big damn deal back in the day before it got fully labeled as a cult. And so, I don't see that there's any way Brother Stair wasn't impacted by it.
Well, you got to figure Brother Stair, it was like around 1950s that he started to get that like doomsday mentality and the end times. And Armstrong was being heard all over the place on his radio, and he started to get into television broadcasts, and then he had the World Tomorrow program. People knew who he was from like the 30s up until the 1950s. Again, nobody really thought that he was a cult necessarily. People were actually intrigued by what he had to say, because this is going on during Great Depression, the 2 world wars that Armstrong lived through. People would have been intrigued. I think Brother Stair could have been one of those people impacted by him, whether he actually said it or not. So by the 1950s, Brother Stair, like I think, is getting in his mind that he's going to be an apocalyptic preacher. And he moved down to South Carolina because he believed that the South was the safest place for Christians in the end time.
Now, so now Armstrong, Stair, and Dowell, all 3 of them hit shortwave radio. All 3 of them broadcast their message to a wide and broad audience. All 3 of them had the same MO, the same motive, right? To influence people, to encourage people to do what? To keep the Sabbath, right? To keep the Sabbath, to honor the feast days. These are all the same cookie cutter type of strategies from Armstrong, from Stair, and also they're passed on down to Dowell. These are things that are very similar, very parallel to each ministry. So now once we take a look at the truth between the 3, okay, and we have one after another who have built the ministry based on doomsday type of prophecies, based on speaking the word in such a way that it compels you or convicts you to want to repent or whatever it may be, but also abusing those same scriptures in order to fleece the people. We want to take a look at a very specific key point when it comes to Stair and Dowell and how it evolved over time from shortwave radio to now what we know as YouTube.
Is unstable in all his ways. Now that's a quote from Pastor Charles Dowell in a Searcy interview. I believe the name of the man was Jim Searcy, but it's all in writing. It can be found on the internet. That's something that Pastor Dowell really does not, well, he doesn't really seem to like anything in writing. What, I keep hearing from him over and over again that he wants to debate people and that no scholar will come and debate him because he's just so grand of a person, that Pastor Dowell is the Most High, bringing the words and the message to the Most High's people. Pastor Dowell is a sick, sick man. He is that double-minded man that he speaks about. He is that man. Now, Pastor Charles Dowell, where does he come from? Let me think for a moment here. Oh, yes. There's another pastor out there, which I don't believe he's as active as he once was. And his name is Ralph Stair. R.G. Stair from South Carolina. This is Pastor Charles Dowell's mentor. Not only is Ralph G. Stair Pastor Charles Dowell's mentor, but he is also the actual leader of the Straitway community. He is the de facto leader. Now, if anybody doubts what I'm saying, all they have to do is look into the Jim Searcy interview, and Pastor Charles Dowell outlines it for everybody. As a matter of fact, and I quote, Pastor Charles Dowell states that when Ralph Stair shows up at the Straitway community, that Pastor Dowell sits down and shuts his mouth. That must be some sight. That really must be some sight in the Straitway community for Mr. Mouth to sit down and shut up. Oh, my Lord. That must be quite a sight. but it sends a message to the people of the community. It sends a message that Pastor Charles Dowell is the Chucky doll of Ralph Stair. That when Ralph Stair is around, the Chucky doll sits there and be quiet. But when Ralph Stair isn't there, the evil Chucky doll is around and lurking. Does it tell you something? Does it? It should. It should tell you something. It should tell you something. It's basic cult mentality. It's basic cult mentality. There's an order of leadership in this cult mentality. Pastor Charles Dowell trains people with his tongue, in his guns, in his intimidation. And then Ralph Stair shows up. And Ralph Stair doesn't have to use guns or intimidation because Pastor Charles Dowell already took care of that part for him. Now, there is more than one of these overcomer ministry communities. There's more than one. There's not just Straightway community, there's others. But see, you'll have to want to actually look at these things in order to find that out for yourself. So you wonder, why is this guy making this video? Well, I'm making this video because I just got an email from Pastor Charles Dowell, and he called me a dog and a false accuser. So I sent him a message back. Okay, you seem to be able to articulate things very well. Tell me what these false accusations are. I don't expect him to reply. He unsubscribed me from his channel, which that is what he typically does. I've had 3 different names that I went to his channel in order to post comments. And this is what Pastor Charles Dowell does, is he unsubscribes people that, well, it might spark something in somebody where they will actually want to look into this person that they're considering funding. Because, hey, when it all boils down to it, these videos that Pastor Charles Dowell is doing is to con people out of money. Pastor Charles Dowell is a con man. And he's an extension of the Ralph Stair con man.
Now, this is an account that was taken of a man that was a part of, I believe, the community back about 12 years ago. This is an ex-Straightway member speaking on not only Dowell, but the history of Dowell being Stair's lapdog, him being Dowell's, of him being RG Stair's protege, someone who would take to him next. In fact, they called Dowell Little Prophet, right? Or Little Stair, right? Just because of the simple fact he spent so much time with the man. Now, my thing is that he'll never admit to that. He'll never adhere to that. One thing that you can hear key in this man's testimony, right, is that he said that Dowell said he was bearing false witness. You guys tell. When you go back in any of these videos where he is being disparaging, when he's name calling, where he's doing all these things besides saying, hey, somebody's in error or somebody's in sin, has he ever said that the Worship Podcast has brought falsified information or falsified documentation, or if I personally was bearing false witness? Now, when it comes to you being a part of the 82nd Airborne Division, you need to provide proof and evidence. Listen, because we're honing in on your position. We're looking for your DD-214. We're looking for your MOS in regards to your service in the Army. And we're honestly investigating that. You understand what I'm telling you? Never solidified anything in regards to that. But my thing is this, right? You won't find that they're saying that I'm lying. Now, my thing is, when you take a look at the situation here, and you see what Stair has done, right? We're going to dive deep into what more of what Stair has done, where his origins come from, his motives, his tactics, the way that he moved. Listen, the exact parallels to Dowell. You understand what I'm telling you? And we're going to prove that here. We're going to definitely prove that it's an exact parallel. Now, Dowell's claiming that he's gotten all he knows from the Bible, from the scriptures. You understand what I'm telling you? Well, in fact, he got it all from his mentor, from the individual he learned everything from. He got it from R.G. Stair. Now, when you really think about it, right? When Dowell preaches and teaches and tells you to sell all, right? To sell all, to come out of her, my people, and come out from among them and be ye separate. The first thing that he wants you to do is sell all your possessions and give it over and hand it over to him, right? Whereas the word tells you to give it to the poor. Now, he tells you to give it to him. Now, once you give it to him, there is no clear, I guess, goal for your assets. There's no clear goal for your assets. There's no clear goal for anything. What if you change your mind? What if you decide to leave? What if you decide to not continue to live on land? Well, I'm going to tell you this now, that all things are not common amongst you, because all things that are given over to Dowell, it's all Dowell's. Everything you look at, as far as the eye can see, it all belongs to the house of Dowell. So if you decided to leave, if you choose not to sign an NDA, then guess what? You leave with absolutely nothing. You leave with nothing that you came in with. You understand what I'm telling you? And even then, you should be worth your hire, your value, whatever you're able to produce while you were there. You should be worth that. Meaning he should be able to accommodate you in ways for your contributions to his ministry. You understand what I'm telling you? That is not the case here. In many cases, right, we have seen and we have noticed when anybody has left that land that they will leave with less than what the value that they brought, or they would even have to sign an NDA and still have less than the value that they brought. Now, I want to dive deep. I want to dive deeper into the facts of R.G. Stair, okay, and the way that he used his tactics, his manipulation, his coercion in order to keep the minds of the people. We're not seeing anything less other than here Dowell syndrome. The Dowell syndrome, the effects of Dowell syndrome, honestly, is what takes effect. You got to know that when he continues to do these manipulation tactics, right, we got to know where he learned it from. We got to know where our origins are. And since these other two men are known cult leaders, we got to know that Straitway is up next to be on that list of being a cult. Let's take a look into some of the tactics that's being used, right? That we can all resonate and all hear.
Oh my gosh. And that gets me to my next point here. I know in 2016, he received a sizable donation. I couldn't find out how much that was, but it had to have been a lot. This man told his followers to sell all their possessions and give them to his ministry. So you got to figure, of course, he's going to build up quite the amount of wealth, which what I understand is he had a budget of $1.5 million at one point. I don't know if that's like per year or how that worked, but he had a lot. And so he stuck it all into his short wave radio so that he could be heard by people pretty much 24 hours a day.
And I find it almost auspicious that here it was the 90s that he's hitting his peak just as the Worldwide Church of God.
Yeah. I came across like several articles that indicated people that wanted to leave the Worldwide Church of God because they were no longer Armstrongist. They needed a place to go. And all of the splinter churches that came out of that after the doctrinal changes of December of 1994, they had nowhere to go. Our father was amongst them. And while people say Brother Stair didn't target Armstrongist people, he found a way to reach them. Maybe that was just because he was so vastly heard on the radio. And of course, everyone is seeking the truth. Our father has just been nonstop seeking the truth. And there Brother Stair was to provide him the answers. He also had the Sabbath on Saturday and the holy days, which is what Armstrong was all about, and he enforced. And Brother Stair was also on this same wavelength. It's just that he took it to a whole nother level. And I wanted to.
Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't it sound like the same tactics and the same motives that are coming from Dowell? The same tactics, the same motive, the same behavior, the same preaching and teaching of the feast days, of the Sabbath. You understand what I'm saying? Using that as tools to be able to draw you in. But my thing is this, right? People who are seeking the truth. First, you have Armstrong, then you have Stair. Now you have Dowell in this generation still affecting it. The effects of cult leaders. Listen, my thing is that it's been passed down. The torch has been passed down from one generation to the next. Stair not only was the one who assisted Dowell in starting this community. In fact, Stair put up the money, which we've already proven that in another live stream, where we proved that R.G. Stair's ministry was something that helped establish Straightway Truth Ministries. Okay. And my thing is this, right? Not only did he help establish Straightway, but he also was the one who put up the money for the building of their tabernacle there on the land. He funded the tabernacle being built. Now, when it comes to Dowell telling you to sacrifice and save up your money and buy some land, listen, this is all great advice, but he also goes on to tell you that he himself did it as well, which he never did. Stair, R.G. Stair was the one who put up the majority of the cash, 60% of it at least. And he had his father, that's right, his father, Dad Dowell, sell his home. And those proceeds went toward buying and purchasing more land. So you tell me, who's lying here? Dowell, tell me who's lying. Are you lying or am I lying? Speak the truth. And you know I got receipts, and you know I'll bring and provide receipts. But my thing is this, right? For you to tell people that you did it the way that you did it, right? That you saved up all this money in your youth, that you grinded and worked hard in your youth, that you grinded, worked hard. And also, not only that, the Bible is what teach you how to do community. No, it was R.G. Stair. R.G. Stair taught you how to do community. R.G. Stair paved the way for you, funded your land, purchased your land. And not only that, he funded the building of that tabernacle, the old one that's down the hill a bit, right? He funded the building of that tabernacle. You understand what I'm saying? And your father, Dowell, I don't know why you're not giving credit where credit's due, and honor where honor's due in regards to how you got your start. And your father put up his home for sale, sold his home, and put those proceeds toward the land. You yourself did not have to do anything. They purchased it for you. That's what they did. So why not give them credit for what they had to sacrifice on your behalf? Now, he teaches his people, right? Dowell teaches his people not to allow to watch us over here on the other side bring the truth. The message and the magnetism of the message, right? It's always been a problem, especially in regards to Stair. In the 1970s, Stair began broadcasting on shortwave radio across America. His sermons were fiery, were apocalyptic and urgent. You understand what I'm saying? He preached that the end was near, right? Something like the rhetoric that you hear now, that you need to get on one of their communities in Straightway. Get on one of their communities. And if you don't hurry up and do so, guess what? You might miss the boat. This might be times of Noah, where you might miss the ark if you don't get on one of their communities immediately. So you sell all, right? You leave your family, you divorce your wife, you split up the houses, the homes, right? Some real patriarch you are of your home, and leading and guiding them to where you just abandon them all together. You understand what I'm saying? And your responsibilities all together for some man who's telling you whatever he's telling you. My thing is this, right? You yourself have to make a wise and a sound decision, right? Because I'm going to prove to you now that this has been rehashed, repackaged, and even now you can see some of the more current videos that he's put out. It has been rehashed, repackaged, and redelivered to attract and to acquire newcomers. This is strategically done so he can get more individuals to join his ministry. So more individuals to give tithe and donation and give money. You understand what I'm saying? Because when the pockets is hit deep, then you got to know that there's a real problem. Right now, some of these videos that's being put out, not only about politics, but also about the food shortage, are all things to lure newcomers in. It's to lure you in so he can be able to get a hold of your money, so he can be able to split your family apart, so he can be able to do the damage that he's looking to do to your household. I'll tell you now that you need not to be deceived. You understand what I'm telling you? Right? Not in a general sense, right? He didn't teach he didn't preach that the end was near in a general sense. This guy RG Stair, right? He just said it's soon, a sense of it's soon to be coming, right? Same thing that you hear, the same rhetoric now, but with exact date and timelines that would later prove false in regards to Stair's behalf. So Dowell finds ways to avoid indefinite speech, meaning, oh, this is going to happen during this time. I remember he speaks about the reset, his so-called great reset in his ministry. When he first spoke about the reset, he spoke about it and he said that he said that everybody had 5 years to do to get 10 years of work done. Right? That was the rhetoric before. But then when people started to leave the ministry, when Pastor Rufus was removed, when people started to walk away, he started to say that was the great reset, that was what he was talking about, is people falling away from this ministry. And so he played on the words, he played on the opportunities, right? And whatever the situation is, he played on that to bewitch the minds of the people, the followers, right? And getting you to believe that he is predicting something, that he has foreseen something coming. You understand what I'm saying? And then this is what the tactics are being used from one to the next false prophet, false teacher, false leader, false pastor. Right? So we're going to take a listen as to what Stair used to do, what rules Stair used to set for his followers on his land. That was a part of his assembly, that part of his community. And I want you to then think about the rhetoric that's being said over at Straightway right now in regards to eating off of too many tables, in regards to listening to certain rhetoric, right? And trying to discourage you from wanting to listen to the truth, no matter how long it takes to present it to you. It could take 5 hours. It could take 7 hours for people to come up here and say their piece. Regardless and nevertheless, it still is worth the time to bring you the truth. Let's listen in as to what the rules
that were in place for not only his members, but people that listened to him. I don't know how it got to be that some people got to live down there in South Carolina on the commune, but either way, Brother Stair had very strict rules that his members were supposed to follow.
Okay, I have 2 things to say here. One is that the rules have always stuck with me, except I have an abbreviated version in my head. What
Same.
I remember from my time with the family was get out of the cities, get out of the churches, get rid of your TVs, and don't go to doctors, right?
Yes.
So like we brought this up when we were doing the Wheel of Power and Control, because every single one of those is intentionally and entirely about isolation.
All right, so the Wheel of Power and Control, there's some validity to it. You understand what I'm saying? We got to take a look at what different things are on this wheel, right? All right, so let's take a look. Coercion, intimidation, shame, isolation, right? Isolation and insulation, loss of autonomy. And I was saying that the loss of autonomy is the destruction of the mind. Loss of autonomy, meaning you cannot make decisions, right? Justification, sex and gender control, controlling the men and then using the men to control the women. This is all a part of power control. You understand what I'm saying? Economic control. You understand? Controlling the income. So in order for you to be a part of this ministry, you have to sacrifice all and give up all control, all exposure. You understand what I'm saying? Let's get back to what they had to say in regards to the rules that Stair also had, also set. And you'll understand that the parallels between the two are there. There are exact parallels. There is no gray lines. This is the same exact tactics, the same ministry. It's just repackaged, rehashed into Hebrew Israelite. Let's get it.
Only 70 people at his little compound. And
Yep.
here our dad comes along listening to this guy and thinks, oh, well, I'm elect. I should be at that compound, and starts getting ready to get his ass down to Brother Stair's compound.
Many of you are thinking the same exact way that they just got done describing, that you're seeking and searching out the truth, that you want to be where Yah's people truly are, and that the life from the Bible is projected in real life and is just jumping off of the pages. Listen, these are all things that are tied in ribbons and bows, but the spirituality is all but depleted and gone. You got to understand what you're walking yourself into, right? And you believe that if you are the elect, if you are the chosen, you understand what I'm saying? That you yourself will take the position and go where you need to go in order to be sure you're amongst Yah's people. But this is how you're trapped. This is how he captures your mind. Next thing you know, you're giving all blindlessly, and you're wound up with a full-blown case of Dowell syndrome. You understand what I'm saying? Now that's DOWLL, Dowell, not Dowell syndrome, to where you can't think for yourself. There is no autonomy. You've lost all autonomy. You've completely submitted yourself and your family to this cult, and they're draining you of your life force, your resources, and having you commit to their compound without any true, real assets that are going to be passed down to your future generations. So you're essentially giving over free labor for nothing in return. For nothing in return to build up what? These leaders, these wicked leaders that are a part of Straightway, you're there to build them up and ultimately to build up Dowell and his own resources to leave behind for his own family. And I see enslaves your family in its entirety. You don't understand what you're doing until it's too late. And you've already gotten a severe case in severe sense of Dowell syndrome. You understand what I'm saying? Let's get back to what they're saying in regards to the situation, and we'll come back with more commentary.
Only listen to Brother Stair's broadcast. So you're cutting off all that information as well. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want outside information influencing people that you're trying to control. All right. Another one, and this is a big one. Get rid of your TV. If you want to talk about a way to get information from an outside source, TV was it. And I remember the day that our father actually took the TV away. It was like the rest of the stand was sitting there and it was just empty. For some reason, he allowed us to listen to audio, like listen to movies and stuff audio, but we couldn't watch it. And so the only thing that made me happy in my teen years was watching my show Xena. And our little brother used to watch Star Trek Next Generation because it came on right after. And he took that away from us. And so like I was so pissed because Xena was what got me through the day. And I couldn't even have that fucking entertainment. So I was furious.
Now that's the sad truth. The control, the level of manipulation and control. This is what it truly is. That's how cults truly grow. They got to control your mind. They got to tell you to stop listening to people who's trying to speak and talk some sense into you. So if they say that you're eating off of too many tables, meaning you're listening to too many other individuals other than Dowell himself or Stair himself during that time, right? Well, we know that Dowell, of course, was the running man, was the lapdog, or was the protege of RG Stair. This is the reason why they tell you don't eat off of too many tables. This is the reason why they tell you to only listen to Dowell, that you don't need to listen to anyone else. That this is the reason why they come on and keep spreading the same rhetoric, right? And this PSYOP and MK Ultra mind control. You understand what I'm telling you? and saying the same things repeatedly every time they come on. Have you noticed that they talk about the same thing? Oh, I'm working too much. Oh, it's too much work for me to do 8-hour videos, 9-hour, 7-hour videos about one man. It's the same rhetoric over and over and over again, trying to train your mind how to ignore the truth that's coming from those videos, ignoring the truth and turning an ear from the truth. They're trying to discourage you. Not only that, pay attention to how many of them are saying it. You have everybody within Straitway who's following Dowell, mimicking and also echoing the same sentiments that Dowell says. Oh, it's something going on here and something here and there. And oh, it must be some sort of activity. I don't have time. I'm too busy working. I'm this, that, and the third. These are all tactics to be able to mind control you, to psyop you, to get you to stay focused on Dowell so he can continue to abuse you, right? So he can continue to misuse you. He's trying to preserve and save face as much as he possibly can. The catastrophic damage that has been done to his ministry, he wants to preserve. He wants to do a PR campaign. You understand what I'm saying? To try to renew his image, right? Or present a different picture. You understand what I'm telling you? All while controlling your minds. Everything he says, you seem to nod in agreement with. When he says that you're not shit and your wife is looking at Dowell like he is the epitome of all righteousness, the epitome of an example of a man, while he's telling you that you're not shit as a man and your wife wishes that you were more like him, he's not talking to us out here. He's talking to you all who are following him, who are watching his stuff, who are watching his programs, who are doing whatever he's doing. Listen, it's a form of manipulation. And you seem to nod your head and agree to it. You understand what I'm telling you? Not just through these lies, right? But through a twisted, mixed truth and manipulation. A man like Stair didn't need to start out as a full-blown predator. You understand what I mean? He worked that into his whole MO as he continued to control the minds of the people. Now, all he needed was enough control over the people's minds, and the rest would follow. You got to understand that now. So next time in part 2, we're going to get into how that control turned into abuse, the scandals that broke the ministry's public image. You understand what I'm saying? To have you to where we're peered now, it's where it's plain view, where the curtains have failed. And we can see the great Wizard of Oz and for what he truly is, and why so many still defended him even after the truth came out. It's the same thing that's going on right now in Straitway, where these people are feeling some after residue of this Dowell syndrome. And for the people who have left and ex-members of Straitway who are defending the truth, who are trying to, and for the ex-members who are speaking against this truth coming out, those individuals are dealing with what we call Stockholm syndrome, protecting your abuser. You understand what I'm telling you? All cult leaders who have manipulation tactics and they have it down to a T. All of these individuals are capable of making you feel and fall under these syndromes, especially when it comes to Stockholm, where you want to protect your abuser, when you want to protect the person who actually fleeced you. You understand what I'm saying? We're going to unpack that and more next time on part 2, and why so many have defended him even after this truth had come out. Because the family, when the roots are rotten, because family, when a roof, because y'all, when the roots are rotten, the fruit will always tell on you. The fruit will always reveal who you truly are, no matter what lands you have, no matter what buildings you are able to build. No matter what you're able to accomplish, the fruit of the spirit, not the fruit of the cardinal, not the fruit of the possessions, the fruit of the spirit, the spiritual fruits will always reveal who you truly are at the end of the day. I appreciate you guys joining me here for this video. Don't forget to look out for part 2, right, where we dive deeper into those things, the control and the controversy of these particular ministries, right? And then holler at your boy on the flock, all right? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with whoever needs to see this. You understand what I'm saying? We're going to be putting out even more truth that's going to reign. It's going to shake grounds, y'all. So let's continue to spread the message, okay? Let's continue to spread the message. This is your host, Barack. Peace and shalom, shalom.